chat box and put your video on whenever possible. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the necessary conditions that we feel will make you have a great meeting experience and ensure that your time does not go to waste. It's our mission at Kampala Sunrise to provide you with a positive and a supportive learning experience. We empower you to develop your communication and leadership skills. At Kampala Sunrise, your story matters, and we are here to help you tell them to the world. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to hand over the meeting to the club president. Alex, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ephraim. Good morning, members on the call. Please unmute so that I can hear you. Good morning, members on the call.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I know it's 6:20, probably feeling cold, but have you taken your tea? You can bring your coffee along. Thank you, Mr. Ephraim Okello, for opening this meeting and giving us the meeting etiquette. I look forward to this meeting. Today's meeting is about storytelling. Your story matters, and members here are going to tell us their stories through speeches, and members on the call are going to be kind enough to give them their evaluations. And we also have a guest speaker who will be checking in around 6:40, 6:50. The stage is set, and I won't take much of your time. To warm you up, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share something that will get you started. Just a second. Screen share. Where is my screen? Let's share it with sound. Let me share it again. Share sound, share screen. Just to confirm, Justin, can you see my screen and what do you see?
Yes, I can see a fireplace burning.
Yeah, this is to get you warm in the morning. So traditionally in Africa, we used to tell stories, and that's how knowledge, wisdom, and I think events were passed on over time, over the years. So we are traditional storytellers. So I will tell you a simple story. Once upon a time.
Time.
Yeah. This is a personal story. I used to go to work every day. I used to have a desk job. I used to go to work every day. I had my tasks set and lined up. I'm in marketing and communication, so once in a while you're required to present your report. Every day I just write my report on Thursday and present it on Friday. One fine Friday, I thought I was good at my job and I thought my report was good. What happened in that meeting was something I didn't expect. Someone had questions and they asked questions about my numbers. And I tried to explain the numbers, and I felt I'd done a good job, but the person I was explaining the numbers to wasn't understanding it. So he told me that all we see is numbers, but what's the story behind the numbers? And then it got to me that I need to do a better job in explaining my numbers through storytelling. And because of that, every time I am presenting something, I break it down into bits read, and then I tell the story behind the presentation. And that way, I usually find that members understand my numbers or my presentation better if I tell a story. So the call to action this morning is think about the fireplace, and whenever you're presenting something, present it anyone, like you said, you're telling it to a family member or a friend, or you're sitting at a fireplace. End of story. It's my pleasure now to introduce the host of this meeting, the diligent, the gallant, the ever-present, the dependable Daphne Nagadia. Over to you.
Thank you so much, President Alex. Good morning, Kampala Sunrise. Good morning, Toastmasters, guests visiting Toastmasters. We welcome you all to our 80th meeting. Thank you so much for joining this morning. It's so beautiful to have you all. And it's my pleasure to be the TMOD of the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for waking up this morning. I know people from all over the world, it's different time zones, but thank you so much for making time for this. Welcome to our special edition today. This is the workshop series where we tell our stories, just like the first teller our president has told us. Remember, all our lives are stories. Everyone's life is a story. Your life is a story. My life is a story. Everyone else is a story. You know why? When you look at today's theme, it says your story is important. And the key word here is story. So to me, when it comes to my mind, I ask myself, what's the meaning of a story? So in simple terms, in a layman's language, I would say a story is any composition which has a beginning and an end. And when you look at our lives, we have a beginning and we have an end. So remember always that our lives evolve around stories. Never forget that your story is important. Go out there, say it, and be proud of it. In today's series, we are going to be listening to 2 speeches from our prepared guests today and members as well. I know you're going to enjoy these speeches and I welcome you to join me. They're going to be very, very interesting. However, at the end of every speech, we will open up the floor for a round robin evaluation. You know, this is our culture at Kampala Sunrise. And we know that the more the evaluators, the more we get ourselves better. So I welcome you. I welcome you to be participants. And at that time, when we give you the opportunity, after the designated evaluator finishes, we will open up the floor for everyone else who can come in and evaluate also what we call the round table, the round robin evaluation. So we go around the table. I welcome you all. What we'll do, another ground rule is that when you want to give your evaluation, I'll request you at the end of the evaluator, you just drop your name or you raise your hand or you go to the chat box and drop your name. We will pick on you and you come in to give your views and your advice and those good words to our speaker. So today we'll be receiving 2 speeches, one from Project 1, and the second one is Level 1, Project 1, and another one is from Level 2, Project 1. So we welcome you to enjoy the speeches this morning. And before I do that, I will not be serving alone today in this meeting. I just want to move on to welcome our role takers of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you Toastmaster Joan Nangovi. Joan Nangovi is going to be the time of the day. I welcome you, Joan, to take us through your role and what you're going to be doing today. Over to you, Joan.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. Good morning, Toastmasters and guests. My name is Joanita Nangovi, and I'll be the timer this morning. My duty today is to time our speeches and speech evaluations. We shall have 2 prepared speeches that will take 5 to 7 minutes. At 5 minutes, I'll change my background. I'll show the green card. Then at 6 minutes, I will show the yellow card. And at 7 minutes, I will show the red card. Then for the speech evaluations, which take 2 to 3 minutes, at 2 minutes, I will show the green card. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I will show the yellow card. And then at 3 minutes, I will show the red card. We shall have a speech from the guest speaker, which will be 20 to 30 minutes. At 20 minutes, I will show the green card. At 25 minutes, I will show the yellow card. And at 30 minutes, I will show the red card. I request the speakers to pin my video to keep track of time. Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Joanita. Well, thank you so much, and we welcome you to today's meeting. I'll move over to introduce to you our very own Toastmaster, Juliet Oyela. Juliet Oyela is going to be the grammarian of the day. Juliet, if you're online, I welcome you to introduce yourself and your role. Over to you, Juliet. Are you there, Juliet?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right,
That's
you're
what
welcome.
I am Juliet, as introduced, and I will be the grammarian stroke accountant for the day. My role as grammarian will be to monitor use of the English language and also to encourage proper usage of the language and phrases. I will introduce a word of the day, and our word of the day today is resolute. Resolute. Resolute is an adjective, and it means admirably purposeful, determined, and unwavering. An example of use: she was resolute and unswerving in her pursuit of her purpose. I encourage all the speakers and everybody who is going to participate in the meeting today to use that word, and we shall give a report on how well the word has been used. Sorry. Can you still see me?
Yes, Juliet, we can see the picture that you displayed.
Okay, let's see. I don't have power this morning, and I'm failing to get back to the video. Yes, and stroking as the accountant today, I will be monitoring the use of crutch words and some repeated phrases. Examples are and, so. Many times we use them because we are trying to move on to a next phase of what we want to say, and we avoiding to pause. People fear pausing. I don't know why people don't want quiet, but sometimes saying. So I will encourage us to avoid those repeated words and phrases, and I will give a report at the end of the day. Back to you, TMOD.
All right, thank you so much, Juliet. I welcome you all to make use of the word of the day, which is resolute. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me. And next on our agenda is the best moment that I love, is to listen to the prepared speeches. And I want to welcome you all to welcome with me, to join me as we welcome our resolute Toastmasters and speakers of the day. Please welcome with me our very first speaker, who is Toastmaster Florence Katono. Florence Katono is going to be evaluated by Agnes Katshabe. And right about this time, I just want to welcome Toastmaster Agnes Katshabe to introduce to us the first speaker and their topic. Welcome, Agnes, over to you.
All right, thank you, Toastmaster of the morning, Daphne. It's my honor and pleasure to introduce our first speaker this morning, Florence Katono, are you on call? Would you confirm?
Good morning, Agnes.
Great. Welcome, Florence. Florence is attempting her level 1, project 2, evaluation and feedback. Her speech title is Happiness is not a destination, it is a journey. Happiness is not a destination, it is a journey. Florence Katono.
Fellow Toastmasters, I'm going to begin with a song, and I request you to unmute your microphones and join me in this song whose writer I think was Resolute. The song is Happy by Pharrell Williams. And when I sing, you respond with, because I'm happy. So here we go. Clap along if you know that happiness is the truth.
Because
I'm happy.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Because I'm happy.
Clap along if you know what happiness means to you.
Because I'm happy.
Thank you very much. Happiness is not a destination, it is a journey. The United Nations conducted a happiness index in 2022, and Finland was ranked as the happiest nation in the whole world. Much to my surprise, I thought that the countries with the highest GDP, like the UK, the United States, would be top on this list, whereas not. In fact, the United Nations only comes as number 19 in this list. Let us come back to our region, East Africa. Kenya, with the highest GDP, came number 119, 2 places after Uganda. In fact, Uganda was ranked as the happiest nation in the region. This brings to mind, what does happiness really mean? Is it universal? Can we all be happy as a nation? Happiness, in fact, starts with you as an individual. Before I delve into happiness, let me take a moment to differentiate between happiness and pleasure. Many people mistake happiness for pleasure. In fact, I thought when I was young, when I grow up and buy a car, that will be ultimate happiness for me. I got the car and I still wanted more. So that was pleasure. Pleasure is insatiable, and pleasure is attached to material, is attached to an object. Whereas happiness is deeper. It's deeper gratification. It is when you treat others as equal, when you treat others as new, as better. It is not about material. And so you can't convince me that you're waiting to get 1 million shillings for you to be happy. No, that's a mistake. Happiness is that gratification you get, that accomplishment deep within yourself that you can't even explain to your neighbor. Most recently, I have been reading a book. The book is Beyond Happiness by Anthony Sheldon. And he talks about the 8 pathways to happiness. For purposes of this speech, I will define 3. The first is acceptance. In this book, he teaches the reason why many of us are not happy is because we fail to accept what is. You have heard the serenity prayer. May God give me the grace to accept what I cannot change. And that prayer simply means that not everything will be perfect. There are some things in our lives that will not be perfect, but we have to learn to accept what is. And for women, especially for ladies, we're not waiting for our skin color to change. We're not waiting to look like Beyonce. We have to accept what we have been given and be grateful with that. And therefore will increase our happiness. The second point is belonging. As human beings, we need a sense of belonging. And when we belong to groups like Toastmasters, Rotary Club, like our church, our sense of belonging is fulfilled. We become more confident with life. Before I joined Toastmasters, I didn't realize many things that I have about me that I have discovered while in this club and while in Toastmasters. So the sense of belonging to a group. But I have to also caution that when you belong to a group, you have to audit that group. There are some groups that are in fact toxic. And as I speak to you now, think about the groups that you belong to, the associations that you belong to. and do an audit. Are there some groups that you need to leave because they're actually being toxic and not healthy? And are there groups in which you need to do more? And I have to mention that when you're in a group, you don't have to exist. You have to give to the group. And you will feel the sense of gratification by just being more than, by giving to your group more than your group is giving back to you. At this point, I'd like to thank all the members of Toastmasters, especially our club president, who is giving of himself in the club, and all the people that are sacrificing time to make sure that our club grows. So to achieve happiness, belonging is one of the things we have to consider. The next is giving. Now we are living in a difficult time. The prices of food stuff are rising by the day. Every day we wake up to a new price at the gas station. But does that mean that we stop giving? Or does giving mean that we give from a place of abundance? In fact, whereas not, we must give of ourselves. And I like what the poet said. The poet said, when we give of ourselves, we give more. That is by Paul Khalil Gibran. When we give of ourselves, we give more. So I want to encourage you and to challenge you. Each of us has a profession. Can you give of yourself, of new entrants to your profession? Could you go to the universities and give a free talk to the students to encourage them? Could you give of your time to a neighbor? Could you give of your time to mentor a child? The gratification you get from giving is actually reflected in the common saying, to give is more blessed than to receive. And lastly, I have to say, focus. Many times we have no focus. And as the author, Anthony Sheldon, says, when you have no focus, you're bound to live by the whims of other people. Happy people are very intentional about their lives. And if I just take a guess to ask, Alex, what will you be doing in December next year?
December next year, well, I'll be still a Toastmaster. I'll probably be in maybe an advanced role at area level. And yeah, I have a few career goals and personal goals I think I'll have achieved.
Well, thank you. That sounds to me like a person who is very intentional about their lives, who has goals to achieve, and who will set it out for themselves. But if we don't have goals, when your neighbor buys a car, it will then become your goal to also buy a car when you didn't purpose. And when you fail to meet that goal that you're acquiring now from your neighbor, then you become frustrated. In our pursuit for happiness, we must be resolute. We must plan our goals and try to achieve them. And as I conclude, fellow Toastmasters and guests, for us to be happy, we must be resolute. We must be intentional by giving of ourselves, by being focused, by accepting what is, and by getting a sense of belonging. As I conclude my speech, I invite you back to the song that we started with. And I'd like for you to unmute your microphones and let's sing again. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Because I'm happy.
Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth.
Because I'm happy.
Clap along if you know that what happiness means to you.
Because I'm happy.
Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. A round of applause to our first speaker, Joanita. Joanita, thank you so much for powerfully delivering your speech. Right now, I hand over to Agnes, who is the evaluator, the designated evaluator. Agnes, over to you.
Great, well done, Florence. What a speech. I feel happy. I feel more confident that I can pursue happiness. Why? Because you have made it very clear to us. You have laid out the steps for us for how to pursue happiness. And from your speech, it's clear you are resolute. in pursuing happiness. There are many things I enjoyed in addition to what I've already said that I enjoyed about your speech. One, you had a great start to your speech. You engaged the audience. What a song. And it resonates so well, not only with your speech title, but with the message throughout the speech that you gave. Beautiful voice, beautiful message in the song. I like how you also engaged the audience by calling Alex to answer a question you had. You differentiated between happiness and pleasure. And so it's clear to us what happiness it really is, and we shouldn't be mistaking it for other things. There's a moment where you used a pause, you changed your tone when you talked about happiness being deeper. Happiness is deeper. That was a good thing to do. I encourage you to continue to do it a bit more. You can pace your speech as well. Use pauses. For instance, when you asked what is happiness, consider pausing just a little bit for us to take in a question, think through it in our minds, and then you answer, you continue with your speech. Another opportunity where you could have paused was where you quoted from a poet. That was a good opportunity to pause. I liked how you brought in some statistics and then the book. So meaning you've done your research about happiness again, testifying to how you are intentional about pursuing happiness. The call to action was very clear. We have to be intentional if we want happiness. We can give, we can be grateful along with other examples that you gave. Then your personal example of gratitude was also very helpful to take in your message even better. I like the use of contrast. You talked about fuel prices. The condition is there are so many reasons why we probably can give excuses not to be happy. And you mentioned some of them, but then you brought in how we can actually be happy despite all those things. Again, using the reasons of intent, like being intentional, giving despite our situation. It's not about us having a lot, that we can still give. I liked the transitions as I conclude. You attempted to use transitions when you mentioned as I conclude. So we knew you were coming to the end of your speech. At some point earlier on, you had also talked of a first point. I think you used next and another. Those are great transition statements to help us move along with you more clearly throughout your speech. So well done, Florence. I absolutely enjoyed your speech. Over to you, TM.
Thank you.
Allow a round of applause to our speaker. Thank you so much, our speaker, and thank you so much, evaluator. Right about this time, I just want to open in a few minutes. The floor is open if you want to give an evaluation to Joanita. Sorry, you excuse me, it's Florence Katono. If you want to give an evaluation, please raise up your hand or just drop your name in the chat and we will give you an opportunity to give your evaluation to Florence Katono. Going once.
There's a hand from
There's
Harriet.
a hand.
Okay, Harriet, please unmute yourself and give your evaluation.
Good morning, Toastmasters of Sunrise. It's great to be here. Unfortunately, I can't put my video on, but I'd like to really applaud Florence on a great speech. I just loved the flow. I really loved the flow. The only improvement that I could see is that Florence's lighting wasn't very good. I would have loved to have seen Florence's face as she delivered her speech. I'll encourage Florence the next time around, put the light in front of her. I can see the light is behind her, but if you put the light in front of her, I'm sure we'll have been able to see her face. Otherwise, Florence, well done, well done. It is true, happiness comes from deep within and not from the exterior things that we desire to acquire. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So indeed, Florence, we are happy.
Thank
So thank you so much for the evaluation. Any other person? Any other person? If your hand is up and I can't see you, please just unmute yourself and come through. Going once, going twice. Thank you so much. Okay. Fellow Toastmasters, guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you our second speaker of the day, none other than our Toastmaster Beverly Nambozo. Beverly Nambozo will be evaluated by Toastmaster Alex. Alex, over to you to introduce to us the topic and the second speaker.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker. Our next speaker is a DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. Distinguished Toastmaster Beverly Nambozo. Beverly Nambozo is attempting her level 2 project 1 speech. The purpose of this speech for this project is for Beverly to learn about different communication styles and identify her primary style. We'll be looking out for that. The purpose of this speech again is for DTM Beverly to share the impact of this style on others. As with a speech title, just a second, with a speech title, Thirsty at 3 a.m. Thirsty at 3 a.m. in 5 to 7 minutes, Beverly Nambozo.
It was in 1992 that a middle-aged lady in her 40s would wake up every day at 3 a.m., painstakingly resolute in her passion as she went to her garden, turned on the hose, and started watering her plants. Her 2 children, the eldest, a senior 2 student at Gaza High School, the younger, an S1 student at King's College, Budo, continued laying in bed peacefully in the holidays as their mother watered the plants. She was communicating to herself and to the universe that she would become Uganda's best landscaper. After the age of 25, having successfully completed a diploma in horticulture in Wales, that lady is my mother. And unknowingly, 30 years later, I have started waking up at 3 a.m., speaking to the universe as my own children lay in bed. When I wake up at 3 a.m., it's not because I have insomnia, no. It's because I too am pursuing something that's so magnificent. I need extra hours in the day. I communicate to myself first. For 2 years, I've piled scores and scores of notebooks, communicating what I need for myself, my desires, my goals, intricate details of where I want to be in life, being so honest that sometimes I bleed in anguish, the tears come and I'm in agony. When I look back, reflecting on areas I have gone wrong, crying at my mistakes, but understanding that this is necessary to go where I need to. And where do I need to go? Communicating to myself so I may communicate with others. There is no better path for yourself than understanding who you are first. Do that before anything else. I didn't know my mother would pass that on to me, but she did. When I wake up at 3 a.m. every day now for the past 2 years, it's because there is a higher goal calling me. Something that just shapes the way I understand who I am, so that I too may understand others. And that's how I became a coach, one-on-one, with teams, with institutions. I was a coach before I understood what the term coach meant. I've always desired to propel people to push themselves beyond the limits. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it was an inner calling. According to John Wooden, a good coach changes the game, but a great coach, they change your life. So many people, after I wake up at 3 a.m., communicate to myself, pour over details of past years, decades, where I want to go with diligence and integrity and honesty, sharing what I've learned in social media groups. I can't tell you how many people have responded and said, I've changed their lives. It's because I know that communication is not about being eloquent, being excellent, adorned and embellished with radiance. It's more than that. Something resonates inside and it just magnifies on the outside. According to Harvard Business Review in 2017, the leading article said that American coaches on average earn hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. That's not the reason though, because some coaches, unfortunately, lead you into a space where you're always dependent on them. I know some people who can't even prepare breakfast before calling on their coach for advice. This is a path of independence where you realize your fullest potential. In 1992, my mother used to wake up every day at 3 a.m. to water plants, speaking to herself and the universe, telling them that I am the best landscaper in Uganda. I've been waking up every day for 2 years at 3 a.m., speaking to myself in silence, speaking to God, speaking to the universe that I too will become such an effective coach, changing lives, and changing lives. Resolute, painstakingly me, a communication style that's not just about becoming wealthy, but it's about creating wealth for others. Over to you, Toastmaster.
A round of applause to our speaker. Thank you so much, Beverly, for strongly and energetically delivering your speech.
Great.
Hand over to Alex, who is the designated evaluator. Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. And thank you, DTM Beverly. What a pleasure for us at Kampala Sunrise to be in the presence of a distinguished Toastmaster and listen to her story and listen to her speech. I loved your speech, Beverly. And on the set of it all, your lighting was great. Your camera positioning was great. You are prepared. You are ready to take on the stage. And I liked how you began your speech. You grabbed our attention at the very beginning, when you said it was in, I guess the year was 1992. That set a stage for, you set your stage for your story. You took us back to a time back in 1992. And you set the stage for your story and for your speech. And you defined the characters in your speech immediately. Your mom, and then I think there were children who were in school. By setting your stage and defining your characters, we kind of got to know what you're telling us in your speech. And then I liked how you took it back. The stage was in 1992, your mother, and then you kind of brought it to the present again, where it was now you waking up at 3 a.m. to water plants. What I liked about your delivery was I could tell that you had great vocal variety. Your voice was up and it was low when it had to be. And I admire your pacing, Beverly. You spoke, your pacing is how fast or how slow you could speak. And I could see those elements in your speech. Your speech had some great learnings and some great call to actions. I liked when you said, because there's a quote in your speech when you said why there's a higher goal and a higher learning. There's a point when you said a good coach changes lives, while a good coach changes the game, while a great coach changes life. To me, your speech was full of great nuggets, and there were less all over the speech, which was a great learning from us who are listening to you. Then your speech kind of was, there's a clever touch to your speech in 1992, where your mother was watering the garden. I think 30 years later, you're not watering the garden as such. Your waking up at 3 a.m. was, I think, coaching. You're watering what I thought were human beings. I don't know if that's correct, but my taking was your mom was watering gardens, but for you now, you are a coach, you're a mentor. Through your Zoom calls, you're empowering people, you're changing lives. And that, I thought that was very clever. And every time you speak, Beverly, I always look out for that cleverness in your speeches. What can you do better with your speech? Your structure could have been more easier for us to take in. While you began well with you had a great call to action. Your speech was well organized in a way that you grabbed the attention at the beginning, and then you laced it with several nuggets. But I felt like your call to action was in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. If you had brought it towards the end, and then maybe summarize it in maybe lists of 1, 2, 3, here are your takings, I thought it would have been much easier for us. I liked how you finished it though. You tie your beginning to the end by taking us back to 1992 when your mother was watering gardens, and then you also bring it back to your life now, what you're doing with changing lives. And I commend your great work, changing lives and also impacting people. Over to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Alex. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Beverly, for the great speech. I want to open up right now the floor to anyone who wants to evaluate our second speaker. Please raise up your hand and I'll pick on you. All right, I see Florence, your hand is up. I welcome you, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Toastmaster. Sorry about my lighting. I'm in a hotel with very poor lighting, but next time I'll do better. Beverly, I was speaking alongside Beverly, and that can be very intimidating because Beverly sets the bar so high, but I'm glad that I did it. I wanted to commend Beverly, as she's very smart. Usually I see people in headscarves, headgears for the morning meeting, but I can see that she went out of her way to dress up. And as speakers, we must show up, and when we show up strong. I love that. I love the chronology of her speech. Beverly is a poet, and I look up to her. So I like the way she weaved her speech right from the beginning up to the end. I like the verve, and this word was also taught me by Beverly. I like the verve with which she delivers. When she comes, Beverly is around, and we shall all know that she's in the house. She's such a force. Yeah, that's what I had to say about her speech. Thank you, Beverly. Oh yes, and I met Beverly's mother, so I'm glad that she spoke about someone that I know, and she's teaching me as well. I like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Florence. I want to call upon Agnes. Agnes, you have something to say? Please unmute yourself.
Wow, well done, Beverly. I just want to give an example of what has already been said, your vocal variety, tone of voice. It came through for me. First of all, the energy is just so good for such a morning and for the message in your speech. And then when you mentioned taking the limits off, it came through in your voice, like you really were taking the limits of going beyond the limits. And yeah, so keep up the energy in your speeches.
Wow. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Agnes. That's so powerful. Any other evaluator online? Just in case I do not see your hand, please drop your name on the chat. Going once, twice. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the two speeches. Oh, sorry. We have Susanna. Susanna, please welcome and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, and thank you, Beverly, ETM Beverly, for that very interesting speech. I just wanted to also commend you that I could tell from your speech what your communication style is. I don't know all the communication styles. I haven't done that project yet, but you were consistent, and I could tell that coaching is your communication style. So bravo, your goal is very well achieved. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. That was very, very resolute. Thank you. Well, if there is no any other evaluator, let me check just to confirm I'm not missing out any hands. Okay. So that's it from our two resolute speakers with their prepared speeches. Right about this time, please allow me to introduce to you our very own guest in the house. She is an author. She is a survey writer. She is an editor. She's the senior managing partner of Success Park Brand Limited. She is the president of Calms Peak Toastmasters Kampala. Fellow Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, on our education moment today, as we tell our stories, and our stories are important, join with me to welcome Toastmaster Jackie Batanda. Jackie Batanda, please confirm if you're online. Jackie, are you there?
Toastmaster of the Day.
Okay, good morning,
Yes,
and
good morning,
over to
Toastmaster
you.
of the Day. Yes, thank you. I'm just turning on my video. I don't know why it's taking a long time, so just give me a moment. Okay, good. Yeah. So I joined in the office. I took a little bit of a while, but I'm glad that I got to the tail end of Beverly's amazing speech. So I would like to thank Alex for being relentless, or actually looking at the word of the day today, resolute in his pursuit of getting me to come and give an educational moment. We have had this conversation, Alex, I think for 2 months or so, and I kept pushing you until I could push you no more. So I'm happy today. And I am a storyteller, as mentioned in my CV, through Success Park Brand. My company, I work to get people excited about sharing their authentic stories so they can inspire others to have a change in their lives. And that is why the title of my speech today is Your Story is Important, and the part which I missed out is, and you should write it. I'm passionate about getting people to share their stories because I believe that within each of us, we have a story to tell based on the different experiences that we have gone through. I remember it could have been in 2018 or 2019, I was attending a workshop called Dine and Dream that is run by Imagine Me Africa, which takes place at the beginning of the year, because every beginning of the year, we all make New Year's resolutions. And before the quarter of the year ends, we have put them back and have gone back in our own steps. So Imagine Me Africa organizes a conference where they get different people together to have a roadmap for the dreams. So at this particular Dine and Dream event, the organizers had invited Reverend Julian Kula from Kenya. Some of you on this call might know of him, but he's a fantastic entrepreneur based in Kenya. He has done amazing things. So we had a private dinner, and at that dinner, I met the late Joy Ngabirano. Those of you that don't know her, she was the proprietor of Cafe Pap. One of the things about me, I am a talker. I will have conversations with everyone, just getting stories out of people. I began to talk to her and she asked me what I do. I said, well, I teach people to write. I get them excited about sharing their own stories. And I told her, and by the way, Joy, I think it's time for you to write your story. She said, me? No, I don't think so. I don't have an important story. And I said, come on. You have earned the space to write your story, to tell your story. You are among the first women or the first woman to set up what we would call a proper coffee shop. You came into the space where men were really playing in the field, and you really have excelled. So you have earned the right to tell your story. And many people that I interact with are like Joy Ngabirano. They have excelled in all the different aspects of their lives. But when it comes to writing their story, especially for the women within the African context, we are told not to shine. We are told to dim our light. So many people, and I'm sure some of you on this call might be looking at writing as a vanity project. Why should I write my story? Or is it important? But also some of you might be struggling with getting to that point of writing your story. And it could be that you are afraid, you have never written before, you have so many ideas that are going on in your mind. And so for this education moment today, I just want to give a few tips that I use in my book writing classes to get people out of that fear zone into the confidence zone so that they are able to write. And one of the tips that I would love to share in terms of getting people to write, when I run my classes, my students get surprised when I tell them, yes, I know it is your story. You've done all these amazing things and you want to capture it, but I need you to start reading. If you're going to write your autobiography, you need to read a lot of other autobiographies to see how people are writing their stories. And so one of the things which I would say for people that are afraid, you might be on this call today and you are afraid to write your story, look at the books in whichever genre. If you want to write an autobiography, or you want to write a memoir, which is just a series of events, not your whole life story like what an autobiography is. And maybe many of us on this call are not yet at that point to write their autobiographies. I love to explain to people when someone comes to me and they say, I want to write my autobiography, and I say, let's look at it in the education phase. You go to your primary, secondary school, and then you might go get a diploma, or you go and get a master's, and then you look at a PhD, right? So a PhD is some way like the finality of the academic moment. Of course, we have the postdocs, but that is the yardstick. So in writing also, you would look at an autobiography as the PhD of your life. So you must be 65 and above. So if you're on this call and you are below 65 years, of which I know many of us are, you are not ready. That is the first step. So don't come to me saying, I want to write an autobiography, but you can come and write a memoir, right? You can come and write a self-help book. And one of the tips would be, you can reverse engineer the books you love. And what do I mean by that? If you're looking at writing a self-help book, you have this experience, it's from your career or in any other aspect of your life, and you want to share it with people, but you are so confused, look at the books in that area, like if it is personal development or in any area of writing that you want to focus on, pick a lot of those books and read them, not to enjoy them, with the question at the back of your mind, what do I love about this book? Why do I love it? How is this writer putting their messages forward? And then you can decide to write a similar story. This is just in terms of practice, right? And then you can also, what I love to call the copy work. And these are concepts that I picked up from a writer called Ron Friedman. As a writing tutor, I always ensure that I have to read a lot. I have to be ahead of the game and learn a lot more concepts. So Ron has this very amazing book that he wrote, which is called How Successful People Engineer Their Success, right? And these are some of the tips that he gave us in terms of the creative writing. I have been teaching my students, but I did not have the concepts, so I didn't have them honed down. So one of the ways is you can also live through, if it's a nonfiction book, go to the endnotes, go to the reference points so that you're able to look for the original sources. And then you're also able to go back and see how you're able to read those books and how you're able to pull the information out of those into your own writing to make your own arguments. People come to me in my classes, they have their stories, but I say, hey, your story is important, but read other books so you're able to quote what different experts are saying in your field, because you're there to teach people. That is the purpose of your book. And if you are looking at impact in terms of storytelling, I would love to say the science fiction writer called Kurt Vonnegut came up with 6 trajectories of storytelling. For any story, you have to have the emotional impact. You take us through the highs and the lows. I came in at the tail end of Beverly's speech, but you could see how she would get us excited as she talks about, you know, the coaching and how her mom, I call Aunt Betty, you know, used to wake up and water the flowers and talk to the flowers, right? So she takes us through the highs and lows. So in storytelling, for whichever story that you want to tell, there are different themes that you could look at. We could have a story of rags to riches, and many of our Ugandan authors, especially the business people, we have seen a lot of books hitting the market where people are talking about, oh, this is my sad story. I woke up, I was very poor and I worked so hard, and this is what I have achieved in my life. I have edited a few of some of Uganda's most successful entrepreneurs, like the late BMK's book. I was part of that project. Aga Sekalala, Senior of Yukachik, I was part of that project. And most of their stories were more of a rags to riches story of how they have really excelled, right? And they were teaching people. Then another one could be a riches to rags. In Uganda, we have seen all these people come onto the stage with the money which they're flaunting around, and then suddenly they are no more. I'm not going to name names, but if you are Ugandan and you're old enough, you know the names, right? Then another, and so that is a falling emotional arc. Someone is doing successfully, and then the hard times hit them. So you take us through the good times and then the bad times. So it also comes with that whole tonality and the sad moments of it. Then there is Man in a Hole, where you'd look at this, someone has a fall and then they rise. Many of us were very enthralled by Tiger Woods, this young golf protege, and then he had all these personal issues. His life was all in the media, and we thought that was the end of him. In his lowest moments, he realized he needed a coach. Beverly talked about a coach earlier, right? So he needed a coach to get him back to be the #1 golfer again. So his story is an example of a fall and then a rise. So even within our own lives, we can think of what kind of emotional acts that we want to use in our stories that we are writing. And then another one is Icarus, and this is from the Greek mythology. Those of us that do literature or love fiction read a lot of these stories. And so the little thing about, in summary, what Icarus was this guy that, you know, it's like got wings and glued them on his body, and then he needed to fly away from the sun, but because he did not listen to advice, he flew closer to the sun, and of course with the heat it melted his wings and all of that. It's you know, it's a Greek mythology, but it's more of a rise then followed by a fall. And then we all know the Cinderella story of this poor girl who was mistreated by her family, and then she falls in love with the prince, he marries her, and all of that. So that is a rise, a fall, and a rise. And then Oedipus, it's a fall, rise, and fall. So these are different ways that you can think about when you are writing your story or having the framework for it, unlocking your story's emotional paths. I get a lot of stories, people that need me to edit, and the stories are very flat. And I am a very candid editor. On Sunday, I attended a book launch. I think I have yes, I have the copy of the book with me. She's a Toastmaster, so it's why I am sharing this book. Charlotte Mbabazi, when she reached out to me last year in January to edit her book, I told her, I don't edit a book if you have not gone through my book writing classes. I do a manuscript review, because most times they are different things that we need to help you improve to make your story better. And at the book launch on Sunday, when they asked her about the book writing process, she was saying it is very hard. She talked about me and told the audience how when she sent me her manuscript, I shredded it. And she was deflated. She was moving in this bubble. I just pinched a hole. And then I told her, you need to give your book 3 months. You've been so involved in this book writing process. Take 3 months, do nothing, live your life, be happy, right? But I kept sending her recommendations of books that she needed to read. After 3 months, she called me up and I asked her, how are you feeling? Are you okay? Now you can get back to the book because you're distant from it, right? And so, so I looked at what she had written. She had a good story, but I needed to push her and ask her more. Where is the story's emotional path? and what arc are we going to have it based on. Another way for you to be a good writer as you write your stories is you become a collector. We know that history teaches us that a striking number of top performers appeared naturally drawn to collecting works, right? So in whichever field that you're in, or if you study the people that have excelled in different places. And some of the examples, the late British American singer David Bowie collected lots of records before he became a very, it's an established singer. The American artist Andy Warhol collected a lot of artworks. And why I'm saying this is, if you're going to write a story, it's your story, it's your lived experience. Read a lot more books related to that. Become a collector, because the first step in achieving mastery is recognizing mastery in others. And that is why I tell everyone, if you want to write a story, start reading books related to that topic. If it's a memoir, if it's a book on leadership, if it's on personal development, in whichever areas, read those kind of books. Recognize the top people, recognize that mastery in others, right? And then becoming a collector, we learn that patterns are easily found in quantity. And I will share my own example. Beverly knows this story. Back in 2003, we had met at FemWrite, the Uganda Women Writers Association. We were this vibrant group of young writers. And at that time, we learned about the Commonwealth Broadcasting short story competition. We decided to enter for that competition. And what I did, I looked at the winning stories. By that time, it had run for 10 years. So the Commonwealth short story competition will have the overall winner and then regional winners from the different parts of the Commonwealth, Africa, Asia, Eurasia, and Australia, and all those other continents that are part of the Commonwealth. But because I wanted to win, I only went for the overall winner. So I had 10 short stories over a 10-year period. And when I read them, this is what I learned. All the winning stories were written in the first person, and the first person in writing is the I voice, just like I'm speaking. I read this book, I did this and this, I edited Charlotte's book and gave her a candid manuscript review that shredded her work, but then we helped rebuild it, right? That is the first person. It captured a moment, because for that story competition, you had to write a winning story in 600 words. Those of you who don't know, 600 words is a little of 1.5 pages if you're using Times New Roman in 1.5 spacing, right? And then they spoke in the present tense, and it was written through the eyes of a 10 to 12-year-old child. So in reading, I had already found a pattern. When I entered my short story, I emerged as the African regional winner, and I missed the overall by a whisker. That is the power of research for when you're writing, even though it's your own story. I don't know how I'm doing with time. And then another point which I like to give is to train your network to give you feedback. So if you are writing and you're not coming through any of my classes, look for people that will give you candid feedback. So don't go to your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your sister. Look for people that give you candid feedback, and you train them to get specific feedback. For example, finding out how engaging your story is, and is it ambitious enough, right? And also asking for advice, how can I make this better, right? So this way you're able to get feedback that helps you do a lot better. And another way to finally write your story, I just learned this concept from an American writer called Cal Newport, who puts forward this philosophy of deep work and shallow work. And deep work is these are professional activities performed in a state of distraction-free concentration. You focus 4 hours or 2 hours on something, you're not checking your email, you turn everything off. And to be able to write very well, it is why many writers takes time away. Many of us have read President Barack Obama's books. For every book that he writes, he goes away to a cabin for some time to have unconcentrated time to write, so that no one is calling him and telling him, I need this, A, B, C, and D, come and speak to us, right? And then shallow work, where most of us, including myself, operate in. You're writing here, you have this email, you're invited to give a talk at the Toastmasters, you're doing all of this, it takes you away from writing. So why we are scared of writing our stories is also we talk about the time that we don't have. So being able to get to a space where you move away from shallow work into a space of deep work. And when you are beginning, you can just have like 1 hour of concentration. Put that in your own calendar and time, right? My coach, Marissa Magatroyd, says that indecision is one of the worst forms of self-sabotage. And a lot of people come to me saying they want to write. We talk about it, and then they go back and sit and do nothing, right? They are indecisive. So if you are on this call and you have been thinking about this story that you want to write and you've never had the time, I've just given you a few tips in that, but I am inviting you to take that risk forward and to write your story, right? And over to you. I don't know if it's Toastmaster of the day or if it's to Alex, because I was a guest speaker, but in terms of any Q&As, I'm open to you. Thank you.
A round of applause to our guest speaker. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Jackie. Thank you very much. That was so resolute. Thank you. Colleagues, I just want to open up the floor. If there is anyone who wants to give a comment or you have a question, please, you're welcome in a few minutes. Raise up your hand. Okay. Let's begin with Toastmaster Moses Rutahigwa. Please unmute yourself and say your word.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day. Mine is to thank Jackie for being with us and allowing us to learn from her. I know, Jackie, it's always a pleasure listening and learning from you, and I like your consistency. And I do believe that we have a lot that we can churn out of ourselves. And I'd like to thank you once again, and I look forward to continuing our conversation. Thank you for being with us today, Jackie.
Thank you so much, Moses.
Thank you, Toastmaster Moses. And Moses did sign up for one of my classes, the Savvy Writer Masterclass. So he has a book in the pipeline that he's due to launch. I think this year, right, Moses?
Yes, this year.
Okay.
All right. Over to you. We have another, someone who wants to give a comment or a question. Florence Katono, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Jackie. Glad to finally meet you. I've been looking forward to this for a very long time. You know that I've been stalking you.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. And sorry about my lighting. I'm in a place that the lighting is so low. I couldn't do anything about it at the moment. My question is about the reading while you write. I have about 2 manuscripts in my laptop, and I found that when you read while you write, other people's voices get into your own, and that can be a little bit confusing. So how have you dealt with that, or have you dealt with that with your writers? 2, you talked about time, the aspect of time. And for me, I think that's one of the things. In fact, I came to a place where I said, should I just leave up everything and just write? But writing won't pay my bills now, so I have to keep working. How does the writer, the one who's juggling and many things, what are some of the tips in which you can block time? Because that can really be something for us to get the manuscript out. I write, then get off, then write again. But my biggest block, my biggest hindrance in this journey for me is time.
Okay. Flores, thank you for those questions. And yes, we have been in touch a lot, and it's good to see that you are in Toastmasters too. So in terms of balancing the reading versus writing, I bombard my students. I tell them, to be a good writer, you have to be a good reader. You can't run away from that. Most of them give the same excuse that you give. I don't want to get the influences, right? But I just mentioned earlier in my talk, for you to get mastery, you have to recognize mastery in others, right? And you are reading not to copy per se, but you are learning. It's just like if you have done research for any academic work, you are going to do the literature review and you're going to read all the experts in your area, right? Not to copy their work, but to find out what gaps exist, right? To find out how people have written, because for writing, I tell everyone that you bring your own experience to the writing. There is nothing that you are going to write that has not been written about. But what you bring about is the lens of Florence Katono into the writing, your experience and your view into it. That is what you bring. That is the richness that you bring into that process. And then the writing versus doing all other things, that is a very good question. So how to juggle the time? I do many things. Right now, I'm in my office. This is not Success Pack brand. I have a 9-to-5 job. And then I also run the company teaching people to write. I belong to Rotary. And now I'm in Toastmasters. I am the immediate past president of CamSpeak. And I do a lot of other things, right? And what I have learned is to be intentional with my time. For example, Florence, let me ask you, how much time do you spend on social media? Give or take, you don't have to give me that exact number.
Yeah, many hours, but particularly
4-5 hours a day?
maybe less.
Like 1 hour, 2 hours? No, let's just give it time.
Okay, let's just
right?
say maybe 2 hours. Okay.
Okay, so 2
Actually,
hours of social media.
I blocked off many of those social media, so they don't drive me. I choose when to.
No, Florence, it's about the hours. We are not talking about what you have done, right? So those are 2 hours. How often or how much time do you spend watching television?
I'm not a TV person.
Movies. Okay, so you don't watch TV.
No, no. Actually,
Okay,
I spend my time reading.
Perfect. Okay, so then you're my soulmate. I have never owned a TV since I lived on my own since 2009. Never owned a TV in my house. Okay, so at least we are soulmates in that area, right? And then, okay, how much time do you engage in shallow conversations, gossip, and everything? I mean, we all do that, right?
Too many
Like I
hours.
also do that.
Too many
Exactly.
hours.
So already, so like 2 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours.
The whole day. Yeah, like banter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So a day has 24 hours, and of those 24, I take it you have a 9-to-5 job. So let's take away the 8 hours of work, and now we have the 2 hours on social media, right?
Yeah.
And then let's put it like the 5 hours on gossip. So already you have the 6 hours that could be going into doing constructive work, right? So that is where you begin from, by assessing which conversations are necessary. In my own case, I signed up for an app, it's called Timula. So I'm able to block time. I know this is time for meetings. This is time when I'm doing the deep work, right? And at the end of the week, I get a report. This is how much time you have spent. If it's social media, probably 30 minutes, probably an hour or 2 hours. Then if it's deep work, like I'm getting myself into reviewing a manuscript, I'm getting myself into, doing my own writing, I have that time set. So many of us don't believe this, but all successful people put their time in the calendar. We have Google, we have the calendars on our smartphones. So Florence and anyone on the call, but Florence, because you asked a question, when you get time today, go in and start mapping out your time, right? So from 7 to whatever it is, I'm at work, that is time blocked. Then afterwards, this is the time I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. So in that time, so roughly in the 6 hours that you have, you can have 1 hour blocked off to read every day, right? Then you can have another hour blocked off to do the writing. Then you can have another hour blocked off to do the research. So we all have time. It's just about saying, what can we prioritize? What can you delegate? Many, especially African women, you've been trained. You must be the alpha and omega in the home. Like you must do everything yourself. And I have good news for you today. You will never be known as the best wife or like the best whatever, but you'll be known as the best, it's this florist or gardener or writer or all those other things, right? So just being able to delegate and manage, and you ask yourself, which simple tasks can I delegate to someone else, right? so that I can focus on the ones that I need to do. So those are some of the ways in which you can manage your time. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you so
Hilda is
much, Jackie. Lastly,
Yes.
do you, apart from FemWrite, which you have mentioned, do you have any other community of writers, especially female writers, that I could join?
So I went through a phase when I was so involved in the literary world, and creative people were very toxic. Some level of creativity comes with a high level of being very toxic. So I stepped out of that space, right? So I cannot recommend writing groups, but I can recommend writing blogs. Like there is a blog called Brittle Paper, where you can get the latest information in all things writing. There is the African Writers Trust. It's in Uganda. You can also look them up on Facebook, right? They run writing workshops, and they will have events. I know there are very many poetry initiatives, but I kind of pulled out of the writing space to focus on building something that would benefit writers in future. So I'm not as plugged in as I used to be in the past.
Okay, I get it. And when is your next workshop, so that we can start saving? They're not cheap.
Yes, yeah. So I am planning to have a 2-day deep dive, deep workshop at the beginning of August. So within the first 2 weeks of August. And for that, by the end of the 2 days, you'll have clarity of which idea you want to write and come up with the book map or the frame of what you will be doing. So that I will put it online.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much, Florence, for those useful questions. I'll just request, if you have any other questions, kindly inbox them to Jackie directly, or you can take it offline because of time. We need to save time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all the good ideas you have given us. I can recall a number of things, my takeaways. But before I do that, Toastmasters, allow us, this is the great moment when we get to listen to our feedbacks from the role takers. The first one, I just want to welcome Joanita, who is our timer of the day. Joanita, the floor is yours to take us through on how we have managed our time in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. Our meeting began on time at exactly 6:20. The first speaker, Toastmaster Florence, took 8 minutes and 39 seconds. The evaluator, Toastmaster Agnes, took 3 minutes and 36 seconds. And our speaker 2, Madam Beverly, Toastmaster Beverly, took 5 minutes and 15 seconds. She was within time. Then evaluator, Toastmaster Alex, took 4 minutes and 14 seconds. We had our speaker 3, our guest speaker. Her presentation took 18 minutes and 38 seconds. Then for the feedback, it took 7 minutes and 10 seconds. When you add up, it's 25 minutes, so she was within her time. I commend you for keeping time, and for those who overshoot, I believe we shall do better next time. Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Joanita. Thank you so much for managing your time, everyone who spoke, and our designated evaluators, and everyone who took part in the presentations. Allow me to call upon Juliet, who is our grammarian of the day. Juliet, over to you. We want to know on how we've managed our speeches, how we used the word of the day. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Tia Modi. Great meeting. The word of the day was exceptionally used today, and it was amazing just listening to all of us. Every single person who spoke today used the word of the day, and I want to commend us for that. I encourage us to continue to use that word throughout our day and even in our day-to-day vocabulary going forward. I had, like, I think it was Dr. Sunshine who said that she's in grammar heaven. I was in grammar heaven today, you people. There was so many idiomatic expressions, quotes, phrases, synonyms, which I am about to lose count of. But just to take us through, there were great words like verb, painstakingly, magnificent, enthralled, candid. Please let's look up these words so we can know their meanings and then be able to use them in our speeches and how we engage with other people. There were also great phrases like adorned and embellished with radiance, high and lows, rags to riches. Amazing. I also quote a number of idiomatic expressions like leveling the playing field and missed by a whisker. On to some of the great quotes. Someone once said that I quote others only to better express myself, and I couldn't agree more. The quotes got us to give more, get more understanding and actually be able to make more sense of what the speakers were saying. There was a quote from Paul Khalil, when we give of ourselves, we give more. Anthony Sheldon, when you have no focus, you are likely to ride on the wind of others. There was another quote by John Wooden, good coaches change the game, but a great coach changes lives. The last quote I caught was, indecision is one of the worst forms of sabotage. This one I can't remember who they said who they were quoting, but it was great to hear and just be able to learn and use it to express ourselves even as we speak and interact with other people. On to our counter report today. Our meeting was almost devoid of crutch words and repeated words. I caught a number of them from the speakers. There were a number of us, and then the most repeated word was and then so. But overall, I think there is great improvement in the counter section, and let's keep improving and growing together. Over to you, TMOD.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Thank you so much for the great evaluation of how we use our grammar today. I think this is a very refreshing day, a very refreshing start of the day with everything that we have had. Before I hand over to the president, allow me just recite a few things. My takeaways today is that as a writer, one of the tips or some of the tips that we have to go with, or the tips that are must have are, one, you have to be a researcher. And then as you write, there's a lot of simplicity that you need to have in you. And then clearance, when you tell your story, be precise and get to the point. And above all, seek feedback. So those are the main tips that I'm walking away with this morning as I embrace the day. I have to research, I have to be simple, I have to seek feedback, and above all, I have to deliver to the point. Thank you so much, Jackie, our guest. Over to you, President Alex. Thank you so much.
A round of applause to our Toastmaster, Daphne Nagalia. Well done, well done. I must apologize, we have overshot our time, but what a meeting, what a meeting. It's hard to control a meeting that is so full of great speakers, great energy, and we want to thank our guest speaker, Jackie. It's such an honor to have you here today. We have prepared something small for you. If I can find it, just give me a second and I'll find it. Screen sharing again. So to our guest speaker. There we are. Thank you, Jackie, for sparing time and sharing so much of yourself and knowledge and wisdom. Thank you. We are forever grateful at Kampala Sunrise. Thank you very much. Also to our visiting Toastmasters, we see you. Harriet, we see you. Our new area director was here. I don't know if she's still here. Hilda Mwesigwa. Hilda Mwesigwa, do you have a minute to talk to us?
Yes, good morning, Sunrise. I was elated hearing all these lovely speeches, and I've taken home the Time Mueller app. I'm downloading it immediately after here. I'll be happy to work with all of you in Area 21. We'll be visiting the club shortly. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Hilda. Toastmasters, you belong to Area 21, Kampala Sunrise, and Hilda Mwesigwa is our new area director. Also, we had our immediate past president, IPP Moses Rutahigwa. I think he has left because probably had another meeting to attend to. Thank you, Moses, for coming. Our guests, you are our VIPs. Thank you for coming. I saw so many of you. I don't know if we still have you here. We have Martha, Rosa, we have Lorraine, so many guests. I'll just call out one or two just to hear your feedback, and then maybe we close this meeting. So I beg for just 2 minutes of your time and we hear from our guests. I want to randomly pick from what I see. I see Martha, Rosa. Good morning, and where are you calling in from? Martha, are you there? Martha is not there. Hi, Laura.
Sorry, hello.
Yes, Martha.
I was on a phone call and I was calling on the phone, so I'm so sorry. I forgot to know what am I supposed to do? Introduce myself?
Yeah.
I think there's also another hand from Noah Badas.
Yeah, Martha can first go. Martha, take it away.
All right. Let me introduce myself. My name is Martha Rosa Anyaya. I was invited by Linda Navayinda. She's the one who sent me the link. And I am so happy that I joined. I have learned a lot from the speeches. And I want to one day be like Beverly and Florence and Jackie. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, you can. Martha, kindly fill in the form we have shared in the chat so that we can get your details and make sure you don't miss any other meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you too.
I'd also called on Laura, if you can just in 1 minute say hi and tell us your takeaway from this meeting.
Yes, good morning, all lovely people. I really enjoyed the meeting. Also, the energizer at the beginning with the song Happy. It really made me like awake because we have a little bit time difference. But thank you all for the inspiration and your attendance and your willingness to share. I really enjoyed and I really wrote a lot during this meeting. So thanks a lot for all the inspiration. Lovely day.
Thank you, Laura. And finally, Badas, in 30 seconds. Badas, what do you have to say?
Yes, good morning, fellow Toastmasters and distinguished guests. My name is Noah Badas, and I'm a founding member of Kampala Sunrise Toastmaster. And this was a very moving meeting because it's really gave me a feeling that I feel I'm very happy to see where Sunrise has come from and where it is now. And I'm very glad to see that all of you has put in the work to make it what it is today. And I was so much inspired in today's meeting. As I heard from Beverly, I'm also an aspiring coach, and I do believe that I'm going to take my skills or my journey to the next level. And currently I'm a Toastmaster. I'm in Manitoba Morning Toastmasters Club in Canada, Winnipeg. And I also participate in another club called Francophone. It's a French and English speaking club. So I'm still part of Toastmaster, and I've been part of Toastmaster from the time that I was in Campus 2015 up to now. So that's it. And thank you very much for this meeting. I wish you all a very good day.
Thank you, Badas. We remember you, one of the founding members at Kampala Sunrise, but he had to leave the country, so he didn't live enough to be chartered at the club. Thank you, Badas, for finding time to join in. With that said, I want to thank everyone for coming. Guests, fill in the form, it's in the chat. It's the only way we can keep in touch with you and make sure you don't miss any other Toastmasters meeting. I want to thank everyone for coming. New members in the house, if you can stay behind and we have a chat on how to get you logged onto Basecamp. I see Edward Kakembo, thank you for coming. Daffy Nagadia, you also want to stay behind so that we get you onto Basecamp. Is another Toastmaster I saw is, yeah, you know yourself, Toastmasters, if you can kindly stay behind so that we get you enrolled onto Pathways, that would be great. It's been a pleasure, and I now call this meeting adjourned, and we shall stop the recording.